time. The car's getting set to be released from the lane. Earlier today, we caught up with a man who claimed pole position, Glenn Seaton.
Always a crowd favourite wherever he races. Glenn Seaton, race one winner, but gee, you've got your work cut out for you with some old mates right beside you.
Yeah, we've got a fair bit of competition out there. Jason was pushing me all the way, which is it's really good. TCM have really come a long way in the last 2 or 3 years with competitiveness with all of us. John had to start off the back because he had a problem in qualifying, but he came through the field and got to fourth. So it'll make it a very, very interesting second race because John will be off 4. Naturally, Jason and I will be off the front row, and then Eddie's at 3rd. So it'll be a pretty challenging race, the next one, that's for sure. But great to get that one under my belt for sure.
And what's it like racing here? You've done a few miles under your belt. The keys in these cars at this track?
Well, the big thing around here is because there's such long or longish straights and stop-go corners, you've got to focus on getting the car off it, which is traction, and the brakes is really critical. So that's why we were focused on this weekend, of getting the thing to stop really good, turn and get the traction off, and it's really working well. And I'm really happy for the guy that owns the car. He puts a lot of effort into it, Don Demetriadis, and I'm really happy for him to be able to get this win for him.
The always smiling Glenn Seaton starting from pole position once again for race number 2. I just ran into him in the paddock on the way down to the commentary box there, smiling as always, and why wouldn't you be on a Saturday afternoon when you got the front of the field for this race?
It amazes me, these guys, that, even, how old's Glenn now? He's, him, Jim Richards, these guys are still able to perform so well, even after all these years. We spoke about it yesterday, reflexes and things like that, but because these guys have never actually stopped racing, they've still got the conviction to pass and have a good go. So great to see Glenn having a win this morning.
He'll hate us saying that he's 51 years of age, but he looks about 31. The baby-faced assassin, as he was known as back in the days, 2-time Australian touring car champion. This is Andrew Fisher. We ride on board with the Jesus Racing entry. Leo Tobin won't be starting this race. That car is out for at least today and potentially tomorrow, so tough break for the 46 machine. As these cars come around for this second race, will form up and go around for a rolling start.
I think John Bow's probably the dark horse here. Obviously, the pace coming through the field. He was probably one of the fastest guys on the track, even through traffic. So even though he's starting from P4, I reckon he's one to watch for an outright win in this race.
That Adam Bresington there, the new paint livery for the 95 car out of the Middleton Racing team in South Australia. Bob had a steer of this car in Darwin, and now Bresington, former Utes racer, jumps into that car. He ran a stint at a HQ Monaro back a few seasons back. So we'll go around behind the back of the safety car and rolling start, which is something I love watching in Touring Car Masters. And that wind still hasn't backed off. We're having wind gusts of at least 50 k's an hour still across the racetrack here. John Bow, how about the effort from 23rd on the grid up into 4th position, right behind that beautiful 2-door A9X Tirana of Jason Gomersall. Let's check out the grid. It is the results of race number 1 to determine race number 2 here today. And Glenn Seaton will start on the front row. Gomersall alongside him. Eddie Abelnika out of 3 with John Bow. Adam Bresington and Mark King on the 3rd row. Andrew Fisher and Tony Karafilovsky on the 4th row. Brett Curran got himself inside the top 10. And Adam Garwood, the Tasmanian, will start out at 10. Over the page to Jim Richards and Rusty French. It'll be Sven Burkhardt's on the next row. Rowan Little and Greg King. Mick Cannon starts out of 17. Alan Bowen, that beautiful Mercury Comet, starts out of 18. Rory O'Neill and Darren Bill starting from 19 and 20. Over the page to Wilson, who had that spin in race number 1. And Graham Stewart. Haven't seen much of Graham this weekend. The South Aussie out there in the 22. So the car's forming behind the back of the Lexus safety car, and this is an essential part, isn't it, Carl? Getting the heat into these tyres for a rolling start. You're going to carry a lot more heat down into turn number 1 than you would on a standing start. Yeah, not too much of an issue on a really hot afternoon like this at Queensland Raceway, getting temperature in those tyres, but still getting them to the right temperature is important. So a little bit of weaving, making sure the tyres are clean as well. This stage in the weekend, there's a lot of tyre marbles out. There's a lot of sand and stuff offline. So just trying to make sure when you start that race, your tyres are in that optimum state. 8 winners from the 13 races this season. It's all about variety. It's the most we've ever had in the 10 years of the Touring Car Masters Series history. Darren Bill starting from pit lane. We just saw a moment ago there. He was scheduled to start from 20 anyway, towards the back. That's a car that Leo Tobin started the season in before jumping into his car.
And no Keith Kasulki in there either.
I saw Keith's car behind the back of a transporter over here before.
There's a lot of fluid coming out of it.
I thought that was a bit sus.
Really unfortunate, because Keith was having a great weekend so far. He's been fast, involved in a few little incidents and stuff out there in that first race this morning, but I haven't actually heard what the problem was. But when you see fluid coming out of the bottom of the car, it's not a good situation as they line up 2 by 2 for the rolling start. I love this format. I think it's great.
Lexus safety car pulls in. It's a beautiful afternoon. We've still got race 16 of the championship to come later up today here on Fox Sports. It's Seaton and Gomersall.
Sitting at about 80 kilometres an hour at this point, just waiting for that green flag to drop.
The rumble of these amazing Touring Car Masters series about to be unleashed around this 6-turn Queensland Raceway course. It's Seaton and Gomersall side by side. And here comes the green flag. We're underway in race number 2 of the Touring Car Masters. Seaton right down the middle of the road to protect the line. Fast Eddie's got a good start here in the Brisbane's cheapest cars Falcon. He'll slot into 3rd place behind the I-Seat Tirana of Jason Gomersall. But Seaton leads us down to turn number 2.
2 by 2 through turn 2. It'll be a little bit scary through there on the outside. So, yeah, very easy to drop a wheel on the exit there.
And John Bow right down the inside of the racetrack, heading down to turn number 3. For the first time, and it's King rounding him up. Remember, he started from 20th in race number 1.
He's gone straight around the outside. I can't believe he's been able to pull that move off. What's really hard into that braking zone, when you're on the inside, all your braking reference points as a driver are on the left side. Your braking markers, the colours on the wall. So JB was on the brakes quite early then. Great to see 2 by 2 racing there. Mark King and John Bow. And Mark King's got the better of it.
Great start for him aboard the 85 car, the former GT production car champion back in the 90s. Down into turn 6 the first time, and Jason Gomersall has got the elbows up in race number 2. He's hungry for his first race win for this A9X Tirana to come through to complete lap number 1.
I reckon JB got off to a better start in the first race from 23rd. He's actually dropped a couple of places in this one, from 4th back to 6th.
There's Karen Filofsky and Curran, who got himself inside the top 10, the local Trans Am racers that's in the field. Here's our leaders out of turn 2, and the big, long run down the back straight. Seaton down the middle of the road. If Gomersall has the brakes, he'll have to do it on the outside.
Gomersall's looking good here. That car looks so clean out there. It's looking pretty sharp. He's looking hungry for it as well. So, nice little battle about to start happening between 1 and 2 there. Saying that, Albanica's just set the fastest first sector, so it'd be nice to bring him up into the mix as well.
And he's been around the top 5 most of the season. He's been a drought when it comes to race wins. A 6-time winner in Touring Car Masters. Finds himself in 3rd. The man on the charge, Adam Bressington, runs behind him in 4th. Then it's Bow in 5th. But these front 2 guys, Carl, just starting to disappear.
Yeah, great middle sector by the 2 of them there. Bit of light between 2nd and 3rd at the moment. John Bow just taking a little while to settle in at the start of this race. Just wonder if he may have set those tyre pressures a little bit lower for this one, just to make sure it's strong at the end of the race. Knowing he was starting from 23rd this morning, wouldn't be surprised if he started higher in those tyre pressures in this morning's race. So likely to see JB coming through, making up a couple of positions, but there's a big gap at the moment to the leaders.
Let's talk about tyre pressures, because they do make a big difference, don't they?
Oh, 100%. No matter what the category, it's probably the biggest variable. That is the one, you know, you do all these engineering changes, you're tuning the engine up, talking about drivability, but the final little piece of the equation is the bit of tyre that connects you to the road, and getting it right is absolutely critical. Talking about tyres, not a good way to treat your tyres this early in a race. Saying that, spectacular bit of wheel work there.
Very cool from Tony Karanfilovsky, putting plenty of heat into these Hoosier control tyres. Great job. So,
meanwhile, JB's got through.
While that was happening, he now gets himself back up into 3rd, ahead of Eddie Abelnica. And Seaton just pinching the brakes down the bottom turn. This now will bring Bow into the mix. The gap's 2 seconds between them, but expect that to be a lot less.
And John Bow is the fastest man on the circuit at the moment with a 17.3. Saying that, Cito's just gone a little bit quicker, as has Gomersall and Bow down into the 16s now. Quicker than qualifying.
It's the conventional way to pass down here at turn 4.
Rather than round the outside with Garwood, as we saw earlier. That's not ideal, seeing fluid coming out of the back, and could be fuel potentially. You just hope that that doesn't cause what we call the meatball flag when there's a mechanical issue with the car. So no doubt the officials will be keeping a close eye on that.
The speed of the IC Tirana. He's right on the back of Glenn Seaton. John Bow again turning fast laps. It was 2 seconds at the last sector. Expect to see the Wilson Security Tirana pop into this shot very soon. So out of 5, now the run down to turn number 6. There is Bow. He's sliced 2/10 out of him so far on this lap. Abel Nicholas back in 4th, but has lost 2 seconds already to Bow. More action happening here. And Bow, he found 2/10, so probably lost 2/10 sitting in the dirt then.
He's still quicker in that middle sector,
It's incredible. He's incredible.
Oh, he's using every square inch of real estate that's out there.
If you missed race number 1 today and missed the news, Stephen Johnson not racing here this weekend. Had an engine drama yesterday aboard his Falcon. They tried to put 2 engines into there, not at once, of course. But over the course of last night, they couldn't get it solved. They parked it up, and now that's going to open up this championship. It was 9 points between him and Bow coming into this weekend. It's going to be a big challenge now for Johnson to claw back those points as we head to the second half of the year.
It really disappointing for Stevie J. He's been so fast. As we see more fluid coming out of JB's car. Or was that?
That's Gomersall's car.
That's Gomersall's car. Apologising. And look, he's made that easy. It's just a clean passing move up into turn 4.
So breathing heavily, perhaps, just in the back.
That's really unusual. It looked like it was coming out of the exhaust, so very strange.
I've seen some alarms on the dash now and thought better of it. Watch this.
Super slow-mo.
The left-hand side. The rear of the car, noticeable that time. Hard to tell from that slow-mo shot we had before. It looked like it was on the right side, but we could be wrong. It maybe dropped some fluid down there now as Andrew Fisher. It's gone off the track down here in the Jesus Racing Falcon. It's on board with the number 9 Falcon.
So he's all by himself. Maybe just coming a little bit hot. Bit of compression lock-up. You don't see that very often these days. So bit of compression lock-up, lock the rears and just send them off. It's when you're right on the edge in those braking zones. It takes a little bit of that to tip it over the edge.
So Bow challenging Seaton now from the back of the field in race number 1 is second, and still has plenty of time on his side, but coming up to the half-race distance lap in this second race of the Touring Car Masters. How many times over the years have we seen Bow and Seaton go at it? Continues in 2016, a long dive down the inside. Seaton will try to switch back here, but Bow gets it done.
He's definitely going to try it on for size, but he's just so strong at that point on the track, turn 4. Like, that's where he's done the majority of his passing moves. So well done there from John Bow, and no doubt the pace that he's got at the moment, he's just going to drive away, I'd say. Hopefully those electrical gremlins that appeared in qualifying yesterday don't come back.
There it is from the left side of the IC Tirana. He's dropped back to 3rd position now and losing touch with the front 2 guys as Andrew Fisher pulls up on the run down to turn number 6.
Well, he's done the right thing in parking it well and truly off the road, so it shouldn't cause a safety car. That thing's not going to start. It's close, it wants to. It sounds like a fuel issue.
Let's have a listen. Because the car's been going for 7 laps, it'll be super hot there. And once they die, they're very hard to restart, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Meantime, Adam Bresington and Eddie Abelnika battled out now for 4th and 5th, and oh dear. That's not dust. He's had engine dramas. Listen to this. Sounds okay here. And then
there's a bit of dust from off the track, but it's more than that going on. I think he's done the right thing by killing the engine, but these guys are going to have their work cut out for them overnight to get that car back on the grid for tomorrow's race.
It's a tough turnaround. They had qualifying early this morning. Race number 1 was only 2 hours ago. The race getting around us now. Bow
Lap record.
breaks the lap record here at 1:16.49, slashes 0.3 off the previous record held by Stephen Johnson.
Said right at the start, I had the feeling that JB was going to be on an absolute mission today, and he's shown that. Bit of a rough start, but saying that, Cito's keeping up with it.
6-time winner here, John Bow. Glenn Seaton chalked up his first one here today. Now back on the back of John Bow. Lap 8 of 13. Gomersall back to third, but 2 seconds behind the leading group. It's Bressington, Abelnika, King, Karen Polosky, Garwood, Curran and Jim Richards now in the top 10.
Might be a bit of a surprise finish here. Glenn Seaton is only within a couple of tenths a second of John Bow. Keeping up, he's hungry. These guys are so competitive still. He's not going to let it just slide away from him.
No way. Andrew Fisher surveying the issues with his Falcon down there as he walks away. Gives you an idea on how big he actually is. We remarked in the first race today, we wouldn't mess with the guy.
He's a pretty intimidating looking guy, but a lovely guy, saying that.
Thanks to this great battle down into turn number 1. There's Abelnika, who was running third, but now has fallen back into the clutches of Mark King. Tony Karen-Polosky have lost touch with the leading group. It's run lap 9 of 13. One more race to come tomorrow where we flip the grids from the first 50%, put them to the back of the field. In case we'll see John Bow towards the front of that race tomorrow. Glenn Seaton will be coming from the back.
Slight reversal from this morning's race.
Yep, exactly. Now Darren Bill has gone off the track this time. That's weird. He's right in the middle of the circuit. That's turn 3 in the background. That's turn 6.
I have no idea how you end up that far out in the middle of the paddock there.
On the curb.
Looks like he's got some overheating issues there at the moment as well, but I just don't know how he would have got there, as I'm sure we'll find out.
There he's ridden across the top of the curb, and you can see the marks. I saw that when we had that high shot, and spun himself right out into the middle of the paddock. He's a long way off the track here. This was a bit further back in the field. This should be Graham Stewart. From a long way back, carrying a fair bit of heat and doing a great job to keep it out.
Dropped 2 wheels off there. That's pretty good going.
He's done it before. He's known for his speedway racing back in Adelaide. Now Abelnika and Mark King go out of the battle for 5th and 6th. In the closing stages of race number 2. These warm conditions, to give you an idea at home, nearly 30 degrees outside here today, and these engines will be starting to feel the pinch.
They certainly will, and with that big crosswind across the track as well. As you said, it's almost 50-kilometre-an-hour gusts at the moment. And we've got to, we see this so often up here at Queensland Raceway, fire on the infield at the moment. So in the past, something of this has been enough to cause a safety car to get the fire crew out there to put a little fire out before it gets out of control. I don't like fire personally, but I'm a bit biased.
You can be forgiven for thinking that could have been Darwin for a moment.
Yeah,
seen plenty of grass fires up there over the years. So Bow and Seaton. Seaton still hasn't lost touch. It's only 8 tenths as they come through to start the 11th lap. If Seaton's going to do anything about Bow, it needs to be now. Dramas he had yesterday during practice and qualifying, he got it all out of the system because this is where the points count. Each race he's just bagging the points and stretching that gap to Stephen Johnson. He's not racing this weekend. Abelnika and King continue on. Jim Richards is up to 9th now. He's got past Curran, Rusty French hanging around the top 10 too. And Sven Burkhardt, the IROC Challenge Series racer, is in the field in the Porsche, doing a great job back there in 12th spot today.
It probably doesn't have as much horsepower as some of the guys that are out there. I mean, this really is a horsepower track. You've got a big, long front straight, big, long back straight. It's really going to be costly. To see Sven up there is a pretty good effort today. Abelnika, loads of experience over the years in super speedway and development series racing, and
in the Touring Car Masters pretty much since the inception in 2007. Go back to this battle for 14th and 15th, including Mick Cannon, Rowan Little, and the 8 of Greg King. We used to see him in 33. He's in the 8 Porsche this weekend. Been around for many, many years, racing the Porsche Cup back in the 90s. Here's Stewart, trying to come back through the field after having the 2 wheels off in the gravel expedition before turn number 6.
Talking about horsepower deficiencies then, it was, he made it look easy.
Back to Abelnika and King. Bowen Seaton's out to 1 second flat between 1 and 2. Gomersall still third, and Bressington on his return to Touring Car Masters sits there in 4th position. Crazy how some guys can be out of the saddle for so long and just pick up where they left off. Oh no, Jim Richards now slowing and coming to a stop. The Falcon Sprint that's had that many upgrades, there hasn't been a nut and bolt that hasn't been replaced on this car, has come to a stop right in front of us on the main straight.
Very disappointing for Jim. He's in a pretty safe position there with only 2 laps remaining. I can't imagine this would be enough to cause a safety car. Like you say, they've thrown everything at this car, swapped bolts and nuts and anything, the smallest little detail, but as you know, it can sometimes be a 50-cent part that causes a failure like that. So they'll get on top of it and be back out there tomorrow.
Upgraded from the 289 cubic inch Ford Power Planet or 302 for this weekend, so a few more horsies under the hood, but they've all headed back to the stable with 1 lap to go. So Seaton losing touch now, probably looking to settle for second and think about the points for tomorrow. John Bowe, the ever impressive John Bowe, heading for home here on the final lap of race number 2. I think for him tomorrow is how these tyres going to be. He's driven through the field, had to work hard in the initial stages of this race.
It could be a big leveler. I think he's worked those tyres pretty hard. He might just battle a little bit for grip tomorrow. It amazes me how much camber these cars run. You see, I saw a front-on shot just before of the camber on these cars, and you see the body roll that they have.
This car is amazing, was built and debuted last year at Queensland Raceway. After retiring Mustang Sally to Stephen Johnson, that car's now been on-sold. They see that later this year. But John Bowe, he's done everything in Touring Car Masters. He's done everything in Australian motorsport. The 4-time champ in TCM comes out the final turn. And this will be his 81st career win in the Touring Car Masters. John Bowe wins race 2 here at Queensland Raceway. Glenn Seaton in for second after leading for a long time. Got to wait nearly 8 seconds for Jason Gomersall, who gets the Matt Stone prepared Tirana home in 3rd. We'll go back to Adam Bressington, who ran a pretty lonely race back there in 4th position. And this battle pack between Abelnika King and Karen Filowski, rounding out the minor positions. This happened on the last corner. That's Stewart again on the outside, hanging tough with a 65 of Mick Cannon. Oh, Stewart back to his old Speedway days and dropped all that hard work that he put in, getting past a little Porsche.
Trying to put 600 on horsepower to the ground on the grass is never going to work. So nice effort there at the end. So there's the results. John Bowe winning the race from Glenn Seaton, Jason Gomersall in 3rd, Bressington in 4th, Abelnika 5th, Mark King, Tony Karen Filowski, Adam Garwood, Brett Curran, Rusty French rounding out the 10.
And good job to Rusty French. Sven Burkhardt's held in with the Porsche for 11th. Alan Bowen was next, and Mick Cannon, Rowan Little, down to Darren Bill, Grant Wilson, and tough break for Jim Richards and to Andrew Fisher, both DNFs.